welcome to another episode of Before Brunch TV, where women are pouring into each other and then their glasses. I'm your host, Stephanie, and I'm so excited today to have some wonderful next level boss ladies here with me today. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you.
You make time in your busy schedule. I know we're all like in quarantine type thing, but thank y'all for joining. And I'm so excited to talk about just like women who are doing their thing, and both of y'all are killing it in your field. And so that's why I named this episode Next Level Ladies, because you're always taking stuff to the next level. So I want to talk about entrepreneurship kind of from your childhood. Like, what did entrepreneurship look like for you, and what were your views on that? Like, did you have any role models in entrepreneurship, or that you thought like, oh, I don't have to like maybe work for somebody one day? What was that like for you?
Well, I had female cousins that actually started their own businesses. One has started a youth group for young girls, and then another cousin actually started her own salon. So those are my primary examples. But as far as immediate family, everyone always worked for someone else. So this entrepreneurship was not one of the things that you really saw.
I think for me, I saw early on my mom. She is a self-published author, and she started when we were living in Los Angeles around in the 90s, and we were her guerrilla marketing team. We had t-shirts, we were on the corners, but that's my early on experience of seeing, my mom, a Black strong woman, just creating her own lane for herself as well. So that's my example.
I think that's so awesome. I didn't see anybody growing up being an entrepreneur. Like, everybody in my family always worked, like will work for somebody, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I just didn't think of entrepreneurship as like a job. I feel like you always heard of it as like it's like your side hustle.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, she's a teacher, but she does that on the side or whatever. So how did seeing entrepreneurs, like especially female entrepreneurs, or not seeing them, really affect your career choice?
For me, it really excited me to see that someone can be their own boss. Having worked in corporate America for so long and always having someone to tell you what to do and what your worth is, to be that person to say, I'm going to be the one to designate, what I do when I do it, and I'm going to set the tone for what my worth is. So for me, that was something that was exciting. It was scary, but I wanted to venture out into that world because I hadn't been used to that, and I was tired of where I was at. I was feeling beat down, by always being told that, no, this is the amount of raise that you're, going to get because you feel like you need to do a little bit better. You're not doing quite what we want you to do. So having the opportunity to say that, no, this is the value that I bring, and like, this is what my values were. I wanted to venture out and see what that was like.
Well, for me, I had, again, that early on example of my mom, but I did not understand, or probably at the time, the days in, the days out of what true entrepreneurship is. And so for me, probably piggybacking off of April, I've worked since I was 15 years old. And so it just came a time where I needed to take that leap of faith. And I created my business. And that's when I understood and was in the trenches of what true entrepreneurship really is. Because a lot of people think, they see the Diddy glorious
on the gram
lifestyle. And it's like, I'm far from that. But I appreciate, how I just got my start and just really took that leap of faith.
So what was the defining moment that led each of you to be like, you know what? This is it. I've got to go my own lane. Because both of y'all are running pretty big businesses. You can share a little bit about your business.
For me, it was not having the time to be able to juggle both. My business started growing to the point where I needed to travel a lot more. And because of me working at the time with a lot of celebrity clients, when they need you, you need to be there. And you can't just go into work and like, hey, I need to have next
I'm
week
sick.
off. And you can't just always say you're sick because you don't have that time on the books. So that was a major factor. And it just became too overwhelming. It was draining. And finally, I had one of my mentors that just pulled me aside and was like, look, you're at the point now that you need to stop the madness because you're hurting yourself. You're not going to succeed in either area. So you have to come to a point where you can choose one. So what is it going to be? And that was a defining moment for me. Like, you're right. I'm not excelling at this job because I'm tired, because I'm traveling, and I'm burning both ends of this whip, So I was like, I need to step out on faith and just take that chance on me and just do it. So
I have a little bit of a different story. I was working corporately for some time, and there came an opportunity for me to basically pitch myself to my first MBA client, and I did that. And while working, I just said, okay, I have to do both at this point. It's not, I'm still early in the beginning stages of entrepreneurship, and just because you get one client doesn't mean you just up and literally quit your job. And so for the longest time, I did both. I was working from 8 to 5. I would come home, eat some dinner, and then get right back on my computer and work until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I did that for years. Yeah. And so gratefully, I had a great rapport with my my direct supervisor. So my client was in Atlanta, and so I was in Atlanta a couple times out of the month. And the headquarters where I was working, they're actually down there in Atlanta, and so they allowed me. I pitched that as well to my direct supervisor. Hey, I can work remotely. I'll make sure I get my work done, because I got to go to games. I got to go network. I got to be where my client is to make sure I'm creating more opportunities for him. And so that's what I did for the longest time until it was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go full throttle with this thing. So I worked. Yeah. I did both.
I want to talk about kind of like the gender inequities in these businesses. So April's in the event world, yeah. And Elise is in the athletic world. And so what kind of challenges have y'all faced in those worlds, like being a female and being the face of putting an event on, or being the face of your client?
I'll take this one. Well, I would just say it does have its challenges. I think we would be naive not to acknowledge that they are some. But I pride myself on being someone that if a door's there, I'm gonna knock through it, bust through it, I'm gonna have to get through it. And just really, my dad always tells me to enjoy the process. And we just know that all of these things are just a part of the process. And so I just acknowledge the challenges, but I don't allow any of them to kind of stop me from my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. But there are challenges. So.
Most definitely, especially within event production, because with the production, usually you have planners that work within your production team, but a lot of the production companies at the time when I first started were owned by men. So when you have a woman that's coming through the door that's making decisions and are attending these meetings, they're looking at you, especially if you look young.
Absolutely.
How old are you? Do you even know what you're talking about? I have children that's probably older than you. I've been in this business long enough, but the fact that you are a woman, they can be kind of condescending, because in the industry, especially with the clients that Elise and I both work with, it is a boys' club. And just to segue into that space is not hard, and we have to be a little bit more assertive than we would with most clients, because we have to let them know that we own this space. Yeah. We're not just trying to squeeze in, and we own this space that we're in. We earned it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And what do you think are some of the misconceptions that people have about y'all's careers? Because I've known you both for a while, and I've attended events or been a part of things that y'all are doing, or interviewed some of your clients, and I see what goes on behind the scenes, obviously, because I'm in media, but everybody sees what we post on social media, right. Oh, the glitz and the glam, or yes, this event was a success, but I've seen you running around like crazy, or stuff falls through, or people don't show up, or a check didn't come through, so nobody's gonna, walk through. What are some of the misconceptions about your career that doesn't make it so pretty that people think?
The biggest,
you can keep it real.
Yeah, I have two different scenarios. I put together a small walkthrough at an elementary school for my client, and we literally spoke to all of the second, third, and fourth graders. So we have hundreds of kids in the auditorium, and as we are leaving, we're talking with the principal. We're doing all of those, the good things. But we also like to interact with the kids. And so one of the young ladies came to me and said, "Hey, are you his wife?" And it hurt me to think that was probably the only thing that she could come up with. And I understand that she was a young queen, but it was but you don't see me working, I'm behind the scenes, I'm not trying to be in, and so that was one thing that stuck one of those heart things, right? That put on your heart that, okay, I gotta change this. Like, I got to change this. Some way, form, or fashion, I have to change this. And then another one would be, you know, when you work with millionaires, people think that you are a millionaire.
Girl, don't
and
they?
I say millionaire, not yet, okay?
Claim it, we claiming it.
So millionaire, not yet. But yeah, I don't have their money, you know, and vice versa. And so I think that that's the biggest thing. And, you know, you shouldn't count people's pockets.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I would piggyback on what Elise just said. You know, people do automatically assume that if you work with celebrity clients that you have all of this money, that you're living the lifestyle. And no, we're not. And just to be completely honest, with a lot of the events that we do, working with our celebrity clients that have nonprofits, we're not even working with large budgets. So a lot of things that we're doing is based upon fundraising, you know, obtaining sponsors. So they don't look at that. But also, I think a lot of time people think that we just show up, that these events just happen.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of long hours in planning. You know, we're not just showing up. There's a lot of there's a lot of meetings. I mean, meetings galore. A lot of times you're meeting with the city because the city is offering sponsorships. You're meeting, you have to deal with, it's not an easy job working with a celebrity in general, because you have to work with their
family,
business manager,
their family,
their team.
Their publicists, their family. You know, there's so many different personalities, and everyone wants to stake their claim on whatever the event that you're handling or whatever's going on. And in the meantime, you have to make sure that you get your client's vision out there.
I can totally relate. Like, full time, I work for a celebrities nonprofit, and it's a hustle. But people think that you just have the hotline to call this person, like, hey, can you slide so-and-so my music? Or, Joe, I know you're trying to like do this. I mean, and at least we've worked on our project together with that. I mean, people just really think you would like this is one of the biggest celebrities in the world. I mean, you can't just call, and they don't understand like this. Most of these celebrities, and I'm not talking about this one in particular, but they don't even have access to their own money. Like, there's layers of people in between them and their money. So you can't just be like, yo, can you just run me $50,000 for this? It is a hustle. It's a process. And then the comment about the wife, that grinds my gears. It's almost like, why do we have to be deduced to that? Like, my husband and I own a business. I'll never forget. We were in a meeting one time, and we were both in the meeting, like, as the Redelling Group. It's both of us. Somebody introduced my husband. Hey, this is Joe, owner of the Redelling Group, and this is his wife. I was like, and of course in the meeting, I played it cool. I was like, but afterwards, I was so livid, and I remember telling Joe about it. He was like, oh, you probably didn't mean anything, but I think sometimes us as women, we're looking at it from a whole different perspective. I was like, he probably didn't mean anything by it. He probably thought he was being like just professional and whatever. But I was like, there's a way, like, women don't just want to be introduced as somebody's girlfriend or somebody's wife or somebody's thing. Like, no, I'm my own individual person. So I get that. Like, that like hurts me. Man. Right, like, dang, that's what I am. And so with that, do you think you have to work like harder than not only your male counterparts, but like being a Black female in business? Do you have to work harder than your white female counterparts? And what's that like?
Absolutely. That's one thing that my grandmother always said to me growing up. She was like, the fact that you're Black and the fact that you're a woman, you're going to have to work 10 times as hard as your counterparts, because it's not going to come to you easy. The opportunities are just not going to flow, and they don't. Right. You know, you actually, for me, it took at least a good 10 years of me grinding and just trying to get myself out there. I mean, I would go and introduce myself. I would ask, hey, can you be my mentor? Can I shadow you? I want to learn more. You know, do you need help? You know, I'm here to offer assistance for free. Doors slammed, no. And, I had to hustle and bustle on my own and open my own doors and introduce myself directly to these people. And then once, I started getting notoriety and doors began to open, then that's when my value became visible to these same people. Then all of a sudden I'm the one getting the phone calls, hey, can we do lunch? But it was a good 10 years. So it was a good 10 years of grinding and just having doors close me left and right, not even asking for jobs, but even just asking to help to get in the door, to show that I can be of value and of asset to you in your business. So, I mean, whereas I talked to some of my other counterparts, my white counterparts do the exact same thing. Prime example, one of my good friends who's an event producer in LA, I mean, her journey, same thing that I did, was 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was grinding for 10 years,
I think one of the things that you said was very key, and that's the word value. And I believe that if you value yourself, and with also hard work, then eventually the right people are going to see that value, and then the right doors are going to open and things of that nature. But you have to put in the work first. As a Black woman, you were told, okay, that's one strike. Then a woman is Black, and then also a woman, that's two, right? And so, I don't know, I'm just a person of, I love being a Black woman. I love our people, and it only just speaks to our resilience. And whatever we have to do to get to where we need to, just enjoy the process. But it's very difficult because it's like, wow, just because of my skin color, I'm one of those people that I still don't get it. Like, I still don't get the racism thing. Just my skin color, I don't. But yeah, it is what it is. Just work hard, grind, and for me, it's not really worrying about what others notice about me. I'm just put in the work because I know that that's going to attract the right opportunities, and they have. That's worked for me all my life. So and going through that process, it's almost like this. Once you make it, you gotta like kind of lean back down and help other people. And do you feel like there's an expectation, especially with Black women, because it's so hard for many of us to like crack through those gates? I mean, you look at like Oprah or people at that level. Do you think like you have to go back and reach up and get the rest of your people? And what are some of the misconceptions about that? I mean, yes, I think that is just, it's our duty. It's something that we should just do. I mean, it's, for me personally, it's the right thing to do. Because so many women, and particularly women, have paved the way for us to do what we are doing. So if we don't go back and stop for a moment or come off whatever high horse that we think that we are on and say, you know what? We didn't get here alone, and I don't believe that I've arrived or, I've gotten to like a mountaintop. I really believe that I'm in the beginning, really. That's how I feel. And every day I'm learning and I'm growing. And so I just take my experiences, and whether that is to encourage a young woman who I see just started her business or is working but she don't want to work, it's like, okay, but you got to thug it out. You have to go through this process for a reason. And so I just think that we have to. It shouldn't even be a question.
I completely agree, and I don't even think it's anything regarding being a woman or being Black, honestly. I look at it as it's a responsibility for yourself as well as your industry. I look at how many doors were closed on me when I just asked for help, when I needed a mentor and people didn't want to do it. So for me, whenever anyone asks for any type of help, whether they're in my industry or not, just want to know about being an entrepreneur, I'm going to say yes, because I know how hard it was for me to have to scramble to learn things. And you learn through mistakes, but some mistakes you don't want to.
Right.
Some things you don't have to. If someone would have just took the time to talk to you and discuss, and even to this day, it's like you were saying earlier, no, I don't think you ever arrive. I don't care what level you're at. To this day, I have 2 mentors. I have a business mentor and I have one within my industry that keep me accountable, that's always teaching me stuff. And as you get older and you grow within your business, you'll find that sometimes you outgrow your mentors and you're at the same level. So now you have to get new mentors. But in order to make this entrepreneur thing legit, let's be real, and to make sure there's integrity within whatever industry you're working in, you have to have mentorship. You have to have that support. I mean, it's not going to thrive without it. I'd rather share what I know so that things can be done the right way instead of having someone fail and then everyone else end up getting out of it. So.
You know what I found too in this industry and being an entrepreneur is like your network. I mean, you cannot stress enough, like your network is your net worth and your reputation.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's always so nice to be able to have somebody like, I'll be like, oh, do you know somebody who does events? Oh yeah, let me call April. I mean, it's your network, and we've all like, passed over, each other's information along, and that's so important. I think people's character gets ruined by greed, first of all, and then just trying to they don't have integrity. And so that's very important, especially in entrepreneurship, because really as an entrepreneur, all you have is your name.
Absolutely.
Let me add on genuine relationships, because
yes.
you know that's what I'm big on.
Yep.
I never use the word network because it's just used so much,
Relationship, yeah.
and it has like this just generic connotation to it. I'm a relationship builder.
Yeah.
Like if I'm speaking with you, I want to build an authentic relationship with you. If we do business together, if we network with one another, perfect, wonderful. But I want you to know me as a person,
Right.
so that if you are referring me, that you can do it with confidence.
Right.
This is a good person. Not only does she's well in her craft, she's a good person. You don't have to worry about her trying to get over on you, you know, trying to rob or steal from you. So to me, it's about forming authentic, genuine relationships with people, because that goes a long way as well, whether it's with business or anything else.
Yeah.
And I found that with most of my clients, I got those referrals because of relationships that I've had with people that they had worked with and done business with. So
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that genuine part. Like I remember meeting April, we were backstage at a comedy show. It was like Anthony Anderson was back then. We were all just like laughing and joking around. I think we exchanged information somehow, but anyway, fast forward like a couple years later, April ended up doing my wedding. And so, but you just keep those relationships going, and not just when something big has happened. I can't tell you like how many times a major festival happened here and people, hey, how you doing? Like, I haven't heard from you in a whole year, 2 years. All of a sudden you want to get tickets to something. Like, just building those relationships are so important. Like that genuineness is so key.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, and what do you all think about, well, I actually want to ask you, how did you choose your industry? Because we'll say sports, we'll say it's becoming more traditional now for women being in there, but like, how did you choose what you wanted to be in?
It was easy for me because it's a lifelong passion of mine. I ran track, I played football, softball, I cheered, I ran cross country. I mean, I did everything pretty much but soccer and lacrosse. So sports was something that I've been doing since I was little.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Hampton University, I went to the first track and field meeting, but something did not sit right. And it was literally God telling me, you're not gonna run anymore. You're gonna focus on the business aspect to help athletes on and off the field, court, or whatever. And literally, that was my first experience, like, is this God? Because I love track, I love sports, I love running, right? But literally after the meeting, I said, I'm not gonna run anymore. And I picked my major, sports management, and then here, I guess here I am now, but sports has been a lifelong passion of mine. And you always see those quotes or, the sayings, follow what you're passionate about. And if you can turn that into a business, that's great. And so that's exactly what I did. I took, okay, what am I good at? What are my strengths? Of course, I'm gonna work on my weaknesses, but what are my strengths and what am I good at? And for a long time, it's just a level of service, of hospitality, of giving. And I literally just turned that into my business. And that's also how April and I began to work together, because a little bit of my business has to do with event planning. And so, of course, linking up with another veteran in the game. And so, that's kind of how I got my start.
Mine was a little less traditional. I fell into it because I was going to school to be an attorney, majoring in poli-sci, but I was a teen mom and I had a baby that I needed to take care of as well as go to school. So I needed a job, and having an uncle that was in the entertainment industry as an entertainment attorney and used to be vice president of a label, he linked me up with a local producer who I interned with, and meeting planning, birthday parties around the office, which transitioned to birthday parties for your kids at home. And it became a hobby, but I enjoyed doing it. And then people were like, you need to start doing this. And people started asking me to host their parties and their events. Left working with him, and I landed a nice job at Def Jam for a while. So traveled and learned the tour production side of things. And I've always been the type of person that like to see what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's me
I always tell people the story of when I was a child and I would go to the circus. Everyone's looking at what's going on, on the arena floor, but I'm the one that's looking at the crew wearing all black, standing on the scaffold. And that's what fascinated me, because I wanted to know, what are they doing? What is going on behind the scenes? What I want to know. So I've always been the inquisitive child that wanted to know how things got from point A to point Z, you know, and I love the process. So when I worked for Def Jam, I was always the one, what are you doing? Like, what is that light for? Can I try this? And, you know, not getting too deep in it, but I wanted to have a working knowledge so at least I can hold a conversation.
Yeah.
And met my ex-husband who was in the industry, and I ended up getting pregnant for my daughter. So I had to move back home because both of us couldn't be on the road and you didn't have some type of stability. And worked a 9-to-5 corporate job, and I just wasn't happy. So my dad was like, why don't you start your business again? But I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I interned and I followed some planners in DC and in New York. So on the weekends I'm driving to DC and New York and I'm shadowing them.
You know that hustle.
Because I wanted to work the business side. I wanted to make sure that once I started my business, I wasn't just starting something. I wanted to make sure that everything was correct, you know, the filing of my paperwork, you know, legalities, knowing contracts, knowing what I need to have in place. And both of those planners taught me so much stuff until I got to the point where I felt comfortable. And like I said, I was just doing things on the side, you know, going to work every day, doing events on the side, creating my own because people weren't allowing me. They didn't know who I was. They weren't trying to hire me for anything. And I kind of lucked out just from talking and building relationships with people on Twitter.
Wow.
And met some publicists in the making that were in the DC area and New York area. It was like, hey, we're having this type of event. Come up here. I would drive on a Wednesday night, attend events, network, meet people, stay in contact. And before I knew it, I was handling events for them. And one just ended up landing me working with the BET Honors Gifting Suite. And from there, it just, one thing just led into another. So
all right, ladies, we're gonna leave with a word of affirmation because you know we love our words of affirmation. So if you can pick your card up and read your affirmation so we can give everybody a beautiful word of encouragement.
I invest in my relationship with myself through big and small acts of self-care. So I'm extremely, extremely big on self-care.
Mine says, I feel what I need to feel and accept my feelings as valid.
Awesome. And mine says, I am confident in my abilities and skills. That's perfect timing for right now. You know, I don't think I think especially us being entrepreneurs, we all have maybe sometimes felt less than, or like we can't compete or can't just get it right. But I think you have to be confident and know your value, as you all said. And so I thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Keep killing it in your industry. And thank you all so much for watching. And for more information, you can follow us on social media at Before Brunch TV. We'll see you next time.